Hello and welcome back. Today we're looking at the top 10 goal-scoring D-men. Now, the data draft strategy has always featured the need for two elite power play quarterback defensemen. And while power play points, shots, and peripherals are important, arguably the hardest thing to find deeper in the draft are goal-scoring D-men with some power play usage. So today we'll look at the top 10 goal-scoring D in terms of their 3-year average, and we'll also find some value for you with a look at the full list towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. We'll start things off with a guy who has no business being at number 10, and that is Evan Bouchard. Now, he's listed as D5 on this chart. He had a massive breakout. He was the number one breakout fantasy player on my top 10 list this past offseason, jumping from a 48 to a 68 on this combined ranking. One of the things that you're getting out of him is elite level point production, 1 point per game, 99th percentile in assists, 91st in shot volume, 2.72 shots per game, and then the power play numbers, 35 power play points on the season last year. He had 7 game-winning goals, 8 power play goals, and on top of all of that, he had 1.3 blocks per game, which is really nice to add to that file as well. Now, the reason he's number 10 on this list is because his 3-year average features some of the time where he was not quarterbacking that power play. So his 3-year average in goals is 12.6. 55 points on that 3-year average and 18 power play points. But we know that we're going to expect more from him now that he is the power play quarterback on one of the most lethal power plays in the history of the NHL. Now, on top of all of that, he doesn't get injured that much, knock on wood. He's played in 99.2% of his team's games over the last 3 seasons, so he is very durable and dependable. At ADP 20, that's probably where you're going to have to get him. That's pretty decent value for the back end of the second round. All things considered, you're getting a power play beast, a guy who does have pretty good shot volume and can score goals, as he had 18 goals last year, so that would put him at 5th in terms of defensemen for that metric. So a prolific goal scorer with some shot volume, a point per game average, which is very rare to find as well, and he does block some shots to give you a little bit of category coverage if you're in a category league. Now, up at number 9, we have Brady Skjei. He's moved over to the Nashville Predators. It'll be interesting to see how they use him. I doubt they'll feature him on Power Play 1. He may get Power Play 2 time. But what a difference this jump from 10 to 9 is. 0.59 point per game is much lower. 47 points is not bad. 13 goals last season, pretty good there. 80 games played, so pretty durable, 97.6% of his games over the last 3 seasons. He's been trending slightly upward over the past couple years, and he's kind of turned into a little bit of a goal scorer. So if we look at his 3-year average, he's averaging 13. So he's been right around there. This actually could be... But Brady Skjei, as one of the top guys in Nashville, he should get some ice time. He's just not going to get a lot of power play time. I don't necessarily think of him as a value pick here. I would probably want somebody who's a little bit more of a peripherals guy in this range. The shot volume is not bad, 2.3, but it could be a little bit better. The blocks are okay, but they could be better based on where you're getting him here. There's a couple guys on this list that you can find at this ADP range, and I would probably go with them more than him. So let's keep moving with this list on a guy at number 8 who wasn't known as a goal scorer, but actually added that to his file last year, and that is Adam Fox. So 17 goals last year puts him at 6th in defensive scoring in terms of goals. 73 points in 72 games, just a bit above a point per game is nice to see there. 33 power play points. He's a staple on that top unit. You know what you're going to get there. 5 game winners is nice to see from a guy who doesn't score a lot, and 5 of his 17 were game winners, so very important there. Had a short-handed goal on top of that. The only thing I don't like, you do get the peripherals in terms of blocks, you don't get hits, and you really don't get shot volume. 1.9 shots per game. I would love to see him do what Quinn Hughes did and increase that by about a shot per game. If he was at 2.9, that would be much better value. But what you're getting out of him is value. So you're getting him at ADP 40. If you're in a points league that weighs power play points heavily, you're getting a ton of those, 98th percentile there, 98th in assists, and that's going to give you that point per game average that you're seeing there. And over the last 3 seasons, it's been very consistent, so just under a point per game, 73 and 77. But even when he wasn't scoring that much, averaging 13 goals, almost 60 assists on the season, 4 game winners per year. So very consistent production. The shot volume has always been around 1.9. Again, I would like to see that a shot per game higher for him to be a little bit more valuable in fantasy. So at this ADP, it is probably decent value, especially if you're in a points league. Now, up next at number 7, we've got a guy who's been here before, Victor Hedman. There was some question as to who was going to quarterback that power play, him or Sergachev. He took that role back over, so if you drafted him last year, you got great value on Hedman. And then they shipped out Sergachev, so he is cemented as the number 1 power play guy in Tampa Bay on that really excellent power play. We will have to wait and see how they utilize Jake Gensel and how they deal with the loss of Stamkos, but even with that, elite level power play performance, 31 power play points, 27 of those assists, 2 game winners, 13 goals on the season is really nice to see from a guy who, again, doesn't have elite level shot volume, 2.15 shots per game. So these two guys don't shoot a ton, but they are very accurate when they do, and they do score goals when they shoot the puck. So I would like to see Hedman increase his shot totals as well. He's going around the same ADP as Adam Fox, and of the two, I would prefer the one that kept their power play intact over the course of the offseason. I would take Adam Fox over Victor Hedman, but you really can't go wrong because you do get the same basic peripherals in terms of blocks. You get the power play point per game at 97th percentile, 99th in assists, and the shot volume is a touch higher. And, you know, basically thereabouts a point per game. There's only 4 guys in the league who actually hit a point per game. Fox and Hedman just around or below, depending on if it's a 3-year average or last season's numbers, but very consistent over the years. Only had that 1 year where he blipped up, but basically been in this channel for a while now, so you know what you're going to get, and he should be pretty stable for you at ADP 40. Up at number 6, we've got Brent Burns, and he's a guy who is at risk of losing that spot on the power play. They brought in Shane Gostisbehere, who we'll touch on a little bit later in this video, and I would imagine he's going to be the power play quarterback. They did have an excellent special teams last year, both power play and penalty kill, and Burns did factor in on that. So 86th percentile there, 20 power play points is not elite level, but it's not bad. And you're getting that at ADP 126.8, so not bad there either. He used to be a much higher shot volume guy. He's kind of trailed off in the last couple of years. So you can see here he was probably a 3 shot per game guy or around there back in 2020 when he was this high, and just hasn't found that shot volume since. And some of the other parts of his game have kind of had to take a break and take a back seat as he became a little bit more of a depth player. Not depth, but not necessarily the number 1 option. I remember it was him and Erik Karlsson, fighting for power play quarterback 1 in San Jose. He comes over to Carolina and gets that spot, but now there is some competition with Shane Gostisbehere. The good news is he's healthy 100% of his games over the past 3 seasons, so you're getting that. The bad news is half a point per game average. The goal totals are there, 10 goals last year, but that's not crazy high. And then you're also getting a relatively low point ceiling at this point in his career. So this is why he's ADP 126. And I would probably fade him there just because of the fact that we have Shane Gostisbehere, who we will touch on later in this video, at a lower ADP, but potentially higher value. So stay tuned for that when we hit Gostisbehere. But up at number 5, we've got Erik Karlsson. And this was a guy who was paired up with Brent Burns in San Jose. Once they shipped Burns out, Erik Karlsson took over PP1 and had a year for the ages. He was incredible this particular season back in 22-23. And then he gets shipped to Pittsburgh, and it doesn't really work as well. So he has missed some time, 87% of his team's games over the last 3 years. The point ceiling is relatively low in terms of what he did in Pittsburgh, but you know that he's been above a point per game. He's been close to 1.2 points per game just back in 23. So he does have that. It is there for potential value. You're getting him at ADP 99. I would definitely swing on that upside in this range. 2.6 shots per game is not bad. 90th percentile there. You're getting assists and you're getting a power play quarterback. I don't think he's going to share it too much with Letang, but they do have to get that power play going. So whatever they do, you have to hope that Karlsson is the guy that they're going through. But 17 power play points, not elite level, but not bad either at this ADP, and he does block some shots as well. Up at number 4, we have Rasmus Dahlin. He's one of my favorite guys in fantasy. He's D number 1 because of his completeness. So extremely complete. As I switch very quickly to his completeness rating, 89 in terms of completeness. He ranks as the number 1 D, and he's top 3 in entire league for completeness. And you can see why. Look at his graph I'm going to switch it back to the combined rating as we look at his graph, but you also have a lot of hits and blocks coverage between 2.41 hits, 1.9 blocks per game. The power play numbers were not as good last year. They could be better, but the 2.9 shots per game, I believe, is the highest of any defenseman who played above a certain game threshold. I think Dougie Hamilton had a couple more shots, but he was out for most of the year. You also get some assists out of him, 39 last year. 59 points is not his ceiling. He is definitely a point per game ceiling type of player. Had a down year last year, and because of that, he's dropped from sort of the second round range now into the third or fourth round range. And if you're going to get him there, I would just laugh all the way home, because he is going to provide incredible value in a categories league. Even in a points league, he's going to give you a really nice floor with the 2.4 hits and the 1.9 blocks per game and that shot volume. And he's the number one quarterback on their power play. They do have some other options that they could go to, but he's been doing that for a while. He's very young. He's coming into his prime right now. He's been trending upward over the last 4 seasons. I would not think too much about it and draft Rasmus Dahlin anywhere near this ADP. At number 3, we've got Mackenzie Weegar, a guy who kind of came out of nowhere if you weren't paying too much attention. But if you have been paying attention, especially in categories leagues, he's been a category coverage guy for years. 2.3 hits per game, 2.4 blocks per game, 98th percentile in blocks. That's really awesome category coverage for you. 2.5 shots per game is really nice as well. And then last year, he broke out for 20 goals, 52 points, 15 of those power play points, 2 game winners. And again, the peripherals are what you're going to mainly hope to get out of him. That's why he's D2, because of his completeness rating. Over the past 3 years, he's been averaging 20. He's been very healthy 100% of his team's games over the past 3 seasons. I do believe that this is a contract year for him. He is unrestricted at the end of the year, so this will be an incredible potential season for him. There's not anywhere really to go but down, because he's been increased so much from a 52 up to a 70. But with that said, you're going to get the peripheral floor, so there isn't much of a risk of downside in that metric. You will probably get fewer than 20 goals. That was a very good outlier season for him, and he was not necessarily the number one power play guy. He did get around 2 minutes of power play ice time a game, but that's not a crazy amount. They did try to factor in some other guys here and there, but if he's the power play 1 quarterback, that would increase his value, and he would be an incredible buy at ADP 90. If he's not the power play quarterback, he's still a really good buy at ADP 90, because he's going to be one of the most complete defensemen that you're going to find. He's kind of in that Trouba range, where he gives you hits, blocks, he gives you more shots, and then you also add in that goal potential, 20 goal pace last year, or 20 goals last year in 82, because he played the full season. So very durable, lots of hits, lots of blocks, lots of shots. The peripherals are there, the goal scoring's there, even the assists are not bad, 32 assists on the year. This is a guy who's going to give you incredible value at ADP 90. Up next at number 2, we've got Roman Josi. He is an elite level fantasy defenseman and has been for a number of years. You do see this one season where he dipped. I believe he was injured a little bit in that year, but very consistent, 80, 79, 76, 72, a little bit of a downward trend, but that's hard to beat, because he's been up above or around 1.2 points per game in the past. He's incredibly prolific in terms of goal scoring. 23 goals last year, 62 assists, 85 points in 82, 33 power play points. 5 game winners is really nice to see on top of all of that. The 3.27 shots per game is incredible. Only thing he doesn't really do is hit. He does block shots, 1.84 shot blocks per game, so very consistent, very reliable in categories leagues. He's going to give you all the stuff you need in your points leagues in terms of goals, shots, power play points, etc. At ADP 25, it's hard to find anything wrong with this pick. I would even jump and try to pick him in the second round if you're looking for that number 1 elite defenseman. Cale Makar is probably the only player that you would potentially pick above him, and he is our next player. I'll spoil it for you now, but Roman Josi is in the same level as Cale Makar. Depending on how you look at the defensive position, he's a little bit more valuable because of the increase in games played. So 76 games played on average over the last 3 seasons. Cale Makar is a little bit below that at 71. So you're getting a little bit more durability, and you're getting essentially the same goal production, and you're also getting above a point per game average. So this is a guy that I would definitely reach and grab a little bit before this ADP in my own personal league. But if you got him there, that's incredible value as well. Now, with that said, we'll turn it over to Cale Makar at number 1. This should be no surprise. He's D4 based on the fact that he hasn't played that many games over the course of the last 3 seasons compared to some of his peers, and he doesn't hit at all, so that brings his completeness rating down a little bit. But he is unquestionably number 1 or number 2 D off the board in your fantasy draft at ADP 10. That is pretty warranted. I would look to grab him at the end of the first round. That's usually where he goes. He was my target last year in the Creators League. I didn't get him, and I ended up making a huge mistake with Tage Thompson, but 94th percentile in blocks, 1.92 there. Power play production off the charts, 39 power play points. Same as Steven Stamkos, but this is a defenseman who put up 90 points in 77 games, 21 goals on the season, 7 power play goals. You're getting 3 shots per game. Elite level assist production, 69 assists on the year. So this is a true unicorn in fantasy defenseman, a guy who's at or around 1.2 points per game, who's going to get you 22 to 23 goals a year, who's going to get you 3 shots per game, who's going to get you some blocks. Only thing he doesn't do is hit, and he does get injured a little bit here and there every season. So there's going to be 5 or 10 games where you won't have him in your lineup, but he should be there for you in your championship, and that's where you would want the value on Cale Makar to come through for your team, because at ADP 10, you are spending an elite offensive pick on a guy like this. But if you're picking him there, you're probably picking at the other end of the snake as well, and you can get another elite level offensive player at around 14. So this is a really good pick. Obviously, he's a guy that you can pretty much count on every year over the last 3. He's been very consistent, and this is a guy you shouldn't hesitate to draft in that range. But now let's take a look at the full list and try to find you some value plays deeper in the draft. Now, as we take a look at some of these guys, the next highest guy was Josh Morrissey, averaging 12.7. He had 10 last year, so a little bit below that. He had a dip where he went through a very rough stretch, but then turned it back on at the end of the year. Here's Shane Gostisbehere, that value play that we were talking about, at ADP 155. You could potentially be getting the Carolina power play quarterback. So this is a guy that I would definitely look at probably before this ADP, because people are going to realize this, and that ADP will probably drop as we get closer to draft time. 12.3 goals per season over the last 3, 10 goals last year, but he's a power play menace, and he could be a really excellent value play for you if you're looking for that D3. Another guy we have to talk about is Dougie Hamilton. Last year, 5 games, but he didn't play a lot. So if you look at what happened in 22-23, Dougie Hamilton, 22 goals, 52 assists, 74 points, plus 23, and 28 power play points. The question is, how much power play time is he going to get? Luke Hughes last year, who's going right now at ADP 111.8, he had 25 power play points and 40 plus points in total. So who's going to quarterback that power play? Is it going to be Luke Hughes? If so, you can get him at a really nice price at ADP 111. If it's going to be Dougie Hamilton, you're getting elite level shot volume, goal scoring. You're getting some hits and blocks with that. And at ADP 63, he should be value in that 13th spot in terms of goal average over the last 3 seasons. Another value play, John Carlson, a guy I usually go to, very elite level blocks, a little bit lower hits, around or a little bit lower than 1 hit per game, but definitely above 2 blocks per game. You're getting some good shot volume. You could potentially be getting the Caps power play quarterback. He's been that for a number of years, at least 10 years by now. They did bring over Jakob Chychrun, so this is another value target. Depending on which one of them they go with, you've got the power play quarterback for Washington in a year where they're going to rely on Ovechkin to score power play goals, and you're getting him at ADP 118 or 153.2. So either of these guys would be excellent value plays. Last year, Chychrun had 14 goals. He's averaged 10 over the last 3 seasons, so a little bit above that. But he's coming over to a team where there's not a logjam on the left side, and he might actually get some power play time. They do only use the 1 unit, so it will be interesting to see which one of them gets that unit. Now, another value play we talked about in the preseason is Noah Dobson. He was number 2 on my top 10 breakout players from last season. He did see a little bit of a decline in ice time and production when Patrick Waugh took over, but they should be a much improved team, and that team blocks shots like nobody else. So he will get you blocks, he'll get you shots, power play points, and assists. The goals have been around 10 or 11 per season, so that's what you can expect out of him, but he's very complete, very stable and reliable, and he's not at risk of losing that power play quarterback spot anytime soon as he is entering his prime. Another guy we've got to talk about is Gus Forsling, who may be the #1 power play guy in Florida now that they've shipped out Brandon Montour. You could potentially say it's Ekblad, but they've tried that a number of times in the past couple of years. He only had 4 goals last year, and he hasn't been the same offensive player. Either way, you're going to get one of those two guys at either 96 or 107 ADP, which is value. If it is Gus Forsling, you're going to get a ton of power play points, some peripherals, and he was a very solid defenseman, even increasing his shot volume last year. So very consistent production, and you could get their power play quarterback in this range at around 95 to 105, 107. They would probably drop as we get closer to draft time. One last guy we want to talk about here, and that is Mike Matheson. Averaging 10 goals per season over the last 3, got 11 last year, but you're looking at the power play quarterback for Montreal. He's consistently, I don't know how to describe it. He's disrespected in fantasy. He's very complete. He's been as high as the top 11 D in terms of completeness for fantasy category leagues. 127.2 ADP is nuts for a guy who's quarterbacking that power play and can score some goals. Has some decent shot volume on top of that, and the blocks are there as well. Gets a couple hits along the way. So he's a very complete defenseman. At 127, he should provide some value for you. You also have Pietrangelo and Theodore. Depending on how they use these guys, Pietrangelo didn't score a lot last year, 4 goals. That's way below his average. And then you also have Shea Theodore in a contract year. He was below his average. One of these two guys is going to be quarterbacking the Vegas power play. You're going to want exposure to one of them, and you're getting them at 126.4 or 150.4. So these are some value targets for you. Power play quarterbacks who are goal scorers, who could potentially provide you a nice power play quarterback option as your D3 as you enter your fantasy drafts. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you again for watching. As always, I'll see you in the next one.